Good morning. It's Easter Monday, and we're going to go through a couple different stocks today, as per request from someone. So we're going to look at McDonald's, Suncor, and ticker Weed. I might also look at a mutual fund here as well, and maybe just some general overview of the market. Just why not, right? I mean, so this morning I woke up and first thing I seen was gold. And why gold? Because it's kind of breaking out right now. When we're taking a look here, and I won't say here too much, but yeah, we kind of had that clear break of 1703, and we can see it rising. And this kind of made me a little bit nervous per se, because I did sell a little bit of one position that I had, and I've been looking to reinvest into gold. Now, sometimes when we leave these moving averages, we can leave them for a while, and for me, I don't want to have no position right now. As much as I'm confident I'll be able to add somewhere here and we'll have a little bit of a pullback, I just don't want to have no position in gold. So for me, I entered in a small portion here, and also I'm going to be buying some physical gold myself. So that just makes me, I haven't dumped everything into it, but I plan to kind of accumulate at the retracements with these assets here, but I don't want to have no position to begin with. So looks like gold's breaking out. And yeah, we should probably see gold challenge, let's say, these levels right here. So it wouldn't be crazy to see gold shoot up to 1800, 1750. I expect to see this in the next few days pretty confidently. I mean, I've already seen it move quite a bit, and looking at the market cap of gold, 9 trillion, a lot of money surging in. So it looks like gold's playing this to a T. So I imagine we're going to see just that slow accumulative phase up, and then we're going to hit this next bull market in gold, which would make sense to me. So right now, I imagine if we're just going to take these little cups as example to this big one, we're probably just right in here as we're starting to shoot up, and now we're going to have a nice good old run, I imagine. So there's many different assets that you can get involved with this. You can own the physical stuff, you can be involved in a couple different things, the mining, the streaming, the ETFs. I think the major point is diversity. And yeah, you probably want to have a little bit of physical. Regardless, I kind of shot right to what I was thinking about. But we're going to go to McDonald's here, because this is a stock that my sister actually holds. And we want to take a look at this and see what we can save for the future. Okay? So, very preliminary. Just taking a brief look at this right now. We're going to zoom it back to the monthly. And you can see I've done a little bit of Elliott wave theory here, just to get a little bit of sense. And this one, I think most of us could agree that I did this a little bit just on the top, but I think this looks pretty clear. You can see that a first wave up here, and then what I want you to look at is that these ABC corrective waves are the 1 to 2 and the 3 to 4. I don't think many people are going to argue that there's an ABC here, right? So it's just a matter of, and realistically, in a bull run, that's what happens, right? We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that's really ugly, but that will be the first one. And then we'll have the ABC, right? Then the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then the ABC, then the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? All coming back. Awesome. So usually one of these is extended throughout the phase, and it looks like probably this third wave is fitting that bill right here. So it looks like this is actually a pretty nice and clear Elliott wave structure here. So we got the 1, come back, the 3 wave, the ABC, and now we got the 5th wave up here. So now, is this 5th wave done? Like, that's just the thing. This could still be the longest wave of the set here, but we know it's not going to be. Well, this one actually has a lot of variability, because the 3 is already designated. It's already the longest, so this could be. It could have been like that, for all we care, but now that looks pretty proportionate. The 1's the shortest, 3's the longest, and the 5th wave is somewhere in between. So looking at it purely in that sense, it would be logical to deduct that eventually here, depending if that 5th wave is actually finished, we should see an ABC pattern here, and maybe a larger one, because this is 5 waves up in a super cycle. So you never know how much this correction could be, right? I mean, sometimes when you see ABC patterns, they can be like this, which is pretty bullish, but when you see the C wave not end lower than the A wave, then that's pretty good. So right now, I imagine that we could be in something like this, right? We could be in some type of corrective phase here, which is going to then form, let's say, some type of cup of some sort, right? So that's the possibility right now. That's a possibility looking at this and its history in the superstructure setup. It's go 5 waves up. Each one of these is the same example. 5 waves up, ABC. 5 waves up, ABC. So now we've just done a huge 5-wave cycle. So we could be seeing a potentially a larger... Okay, get out of here. We could be seeing some type of larger ABC. Now, McDonald's, am I really bearish on McDonald's? No, not necessarily, but you never know like what these could look like, right? It could be some drawn out something like this. But inevitably, I would probably have to commit and say that McDonald's is probably a pretty good stock, and it's going to continue back on upward. But when you look at the bottom here, when we start looking in years, how long could this depression be, right? Or this decline? Now, I'm not going to say that that's exactly. I think I just found a cool little risk to reward thing here. So this can sometimes be how you're taking trades and bets and stuff like that, right? So right now, you could theorize, in my mind. Now that is pretty gross right there. I'm just going to delete it. You get the point. You can kind of set up your own risk to reward setups, right? But right now, it's looking like McDonald's has a lot of risk to potential reward. I mean, we could see this just push forward, but you could see for me, looking at this huge superstructure, it's looking like it's I mean, this could go further like this, but what goes up usually must come down. And well, when I'm looking at it here, like, yeah, like, it looks pretty good when I extend it into the thousands, right? But this third wave right here looks pretty darn big, right? So I imagine this is the extended wave, and then you wouldn't expect it to be longer than this. So this is starting to look proportionate, and then with the current climate, we could see a little bit of a pullback. And when you look at a place like McDonald's, I don't think it's really as busy. Nowhere is it as busy, right? It's not going to maybe be as affected as some other businesses because McDonald's is open, but I don't see the lineups as big as I typically did see them. I don't know if that's because everyone's just kind of in a little bit more of a saving phase, but I don't see I mean, there's people there, but I don't see it as much, right? I just don't see people in the fast food areas as much as it was beforehand, partially because probably people don't have as much expendable income, so maybe they're trying not to spend as much on fast food and stuff like that. So with McDonald's, it's not really hugely pulled back right now. I mean, when you look at it in that grand scheme, but all the same, we're probably looking at, we're down 27% from all-time highs. So in that sense, it's I would say look at where we're challenging. We're challenging this last little prior support right there. So that's an interesting little point to be made right there. Maybe we'll just draw, let's say, more of a short-term little trend support just from this last touch right here. And if you're in this position, and it's tough to say right now with any stock, it's really tough to give advice, and that's what I'm not trying to do on this channel ever anyway. So it's tough to say buy this, sell that right now, because we're kind of just in a position where it could go either way, right? I mean, it's seeming more and more to me that it's not going to be as fast of a recovery as much as we'd want it to be. And in that sense, it's kind of for me, I'm out of a lot of stocks. So when you're looking at, it's just for my personal choice, is to be more offset into gold and silver, because everything technically and macroeconomically is telling everyone to get into those assets. Now, McDonald's, I don't see it just crashing and burning, but when we look at in history, when we had the decline right there, it was 74% there, hey? We had 74% decline in McDonald's over the course of about 3 years. So McDonald's had its downturn, 73%. So from the top here, let's just say, sometimes this is just fun to kind of do and say, okay, well, we could theoretically see McDonald's at $57 if it just repeated history, its own history. If that was just a miniature correction, right, and not actually part of the bigger super cycle. So when I'm saying that, just to clarify, like, this is just a wave within a wave, right? This is just a wave within a wave. This is not the actual continuation, right? It's actually not the ABC pattern right here. So we sure as heck ain't gonna see it at $3, right? But when you draw something like this, it's not looking as crazy, hey? And to say that, dude, we might see something like that, right? That'd be probably a decent prediction, and say, hey, we're gonna form a cup, and then McDonald's is probably gonna continue going on, worldwide presence. But in these kind of downturns, it's not crazy to assume that something like that could happen. Now let's just look at some other things. I mean, momentum. You could say momentum for McDonald's is just, it's been on this crazy march, right? Increasing. We got a little downturn right there, but it usually is just higher. So on that scale, yeah, we've definitely been marching along with McDonald's, hey? So some other things, though, that we can see we're kind of looping down here, and there could be some more downward action to play out. Let's just take a look here on the weekly. The weekly, we're starting to round up a little bit, so these things don't come to straight down. Like I said, it could be more of like a long-term played out thing, right? And am I going to stick with that prediction right here? No, I mean, this could be, this could be anywhere. You really want to try to make it proportionate. Usually the A wave's got to be a little longer. This one will be a little bit, a little bit tighter than the C wave. Who knows what's going to happen, but it's not crazy to see stuff like this, right? And that's what forms that downward cup. So we could see McDonald's have some correction right now. It's still quite a bit, so you never know, right? I mean, you could use, let's say, this little short-term trend line as a preventative mechanism. And also, let's say we just take the 200-day on the weekly here. It's been supported quite nicely, right? So when it breaks through here, you can see a break of that, and then it takes some time. Then we get above it, we start forming the rally, and we have touches down, right? We're touching it, but we just keep on going up. Clearly breaks through, and you can see, yeah, we had that clear break of that 200-day moving average. We can see, a 60% loss after we seen it break there. So right here, we're kind of just challenging it, eh? So I would definitely say, a pretty good indicator, we don't want to see you start hovering below this trend line, would be like that 168.91. We don't want to see it get below this 200-day weekly moving average, because historically, it's been a pretty good confirmation that, we might be having some downturn here. And just seeing how this potentially could be in this huge super cycle, it's not crazy to figure we might have a little bit of retracement before we keep marching up. So with McDonald's, it could just keep going up, especially if it can get above this support here and just continue moving on. If we can hold 170, if we can hold up in here and just continue to march on, you never know. We could just continue up again for a little bit longer. I don't know with that, but it's a possibility, right? So that's where you can never be certain, but there is that possibility. So be aware with McDonald's that I would be very cautious about this breaking that, and then a secondary line of support would be this one right here, because I don't think you really want to see it go down to $70, right? That's just the potential, and I don't think I want to scare anyone, but looking at that, some other things here, just kind of a fun perspective, but let's just do a couple of fibs. So let's just look at the fib here. We can say from the bottom right here, let's go up to the top, like so. We had a nice 0.78, so 78.6% retracement. So you can see a touch there, and it continued on. Okay, that's the point I want to make. Now let's delete that. Let's take it from the next one, from the bottom right here. Let's move up to the top of the third. Right, so we see we had a nice retracement. We came down not quite to the 786 right there. So, all right. Let's do another one right here. So let's do it right here. Let's go up like so. And you could see that it's not ludicrous to see that, you know, we could have price in this range, right? Based on the Fibonacci and some of the prior history of McDonald's, if we see something like this, you know, it could be right here. And that's just like if it's just like a correction wave in there, right? It could be even worse. I mean, not that I'm saying that's going to happen, but just to look at the history of the stock, right? So I think that's a good little summary of McDonald's, and I'm just going to look at the next one here. All right. So we're going to look at Suncor. Suncor Energy, and we're going to look at the Canadian one. Excuse me. So it looks like I've been here before. I don't know why. X marks the spot right there. I mean, you can't see anything when I was... We got 1,000 Fibonacci's in here. Okay, let's get some of this out of here. So I think before we might have been playing, let's say, this angle and this ascending angle up, and we could expect that it was going to have a move here, moved up, was holding that support there, and it broke down, and it broke down pretty good. But it almost caught right here, right? It almost caught support there, so it might move within this broadening area. But that's not what we're going to do. We're going to take that away, look at this from a monthly standpoint, and say, hey, for this, you'd probably have drawn that trend line like so, right? So you can just say how these trend lines can be only relevant in the time that you draw them, right? So right now we could either draw it like so, like this, or you could even have someone just use the bottom right there. All those could be applicable. So I'm just going to draw them like so, right? So that gives you a little bit of trajectory of where this is going. I mean, beforehand though, like when you looked at this back in the time frame, like you would have been drawing it like this, right? Like so. And you could have said, like, when it breaks these trends, like you can just suspect like something that's not going to follow. You know, so you would have used this in 09, that would have been your trend line. You would have used this when we were 2019, broke that. So right now we're probably within these two, right? We're using one of these two trend lines as our last little bastion of support. Suncor Energy. So I'm not really sure exactly what this is, but you could say here, like, here it looked like it was forming a nice cup, right? It looked like it was forming this, and I think this is going to be a good example how you never know when the bottom of that is, right? So it looks like now what we thought was the bottom of that cup turned out to not be. It wasn't over yet, hey? I mean, so that was just the first leg down. Looks like we had a little bit of a correction. I'm not sure how I draw this. Like sometimes this is how there's obviously an A, B, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think it might have been something like this, like a truncated C, which would typically be a bullish pattern. But I think what really happened is that we try to rally back up here. So we did a 1, 2, 3. Let's say we did this, and then boom, right there. So usually you denominate that market failure. And now we're going to be repeating another ABC. So that's how you can do it too. Like when you see it do the 1, 2, 3 correction, and then obviously it doesn't kind of break through higher highs. It doesn't continue on the bull run. We have to assume that we have had a reversal in trend, and that's where right here, that's what you would denominate something like so. And just to use an example on the current top of my head, that's how you would denominate something like Bitcoin here, right? Too. So you could say, hey, we had a A, B, C or something, and then we tried to have a rally up here. That's not a good example. Sorry about that, guys. I had it all drawn out in here. If you look at most people, they're going to use something different. It's this one. you can do more of a WXY. So it's more of an extended bear market, right? So basically, this is the failure right there, and we're continuing on another cycle down. ABC down, market failure. We didn't break all-time highs. We're doomed for another ABC correction pattern here. So likely that's what we're doing right now, you know, in Bitcoin, and that's where this point, that's where everyone's like, oh, what's this point gonna go to? Who knows, right? I mean, and then also within this huge thing, I've seen people just try to denominate it all like, go to here, like a huge one, like a huge like A, B, you know, C like that. But yeah, regardless, I think that the point's made here. We're gonna jump back and just kind of look at how markets do fail eventually, and well, here it just kind of reminds me of that same kind of situation. So either way you want to denominate this, we could do something like I don't know if I like that awesomely. Yeah, I don't like that. So I'm basically just gonna say, like, usually when we form these cups, we usually want to form a solid bottom. Now we've just kind of established another bottom here, so we have to take that into consideration and say, well, is this going to be the bottom of this correction cycle, right? And looking at here, you know, I don't like how that momentum shot down so hard, like so. And well, in this weekly sense, we haven't seen the end of it yet. On a monthly sense, it looks like we're just still trickling down. Looks like we're still coming down. Looks like we had a pretty good sell signal right here a little while ago, Suncor Energy. But now we're pretty much almost, well, there's still some room to go down, but we're moving towards the last bottom that we've seen. So here, yeah, we're still trucking along down. I wouldn't be buying yet. The daily sense, you could have said, yeah, you could have bought, you idiot. So yeah, there's always different ways you can look at it. Depends on what time frame, always. So some people looking to trade this bounce could have used this little thing here, and they could have probably got a little bit of an idea that there might have been a little bit of bounce there. Not my forte. But yeah, it looks like Suncor is having a little bit of its rally here, but it looks like it's starting to round off. It's starting to round, so you know how this stuff works, right? Let's bring it back, but it looks like it's just doing a little correction phase, right? So but yeah, I mean, this one, it's you know, it's a tough position to be on this one because it looks like it's got a dividend here, so that's a good thing. It's got a dividend, but it fell through that last little support in this cup, so this could be the new bottom, and it looks like it's got some support right here. And I guess looking at the all-time highs, yeah, it's already $70 all-time high, so to see it at such a retracement, it's pretty tough though to let go of it from this point. It just really is. Like, how can you? This one might be like you almost just have to hold on to this thing for dear life. Looking at the top here, looks like we had a little bit of a, you know, didn't hold that any of those levels too well. I'm not really sure what this asset is. Could say here it had a bounce right there. Oh, what would I do if I had the Suncor? Well, it would really depend when I got in, but when I'm looking at this, I mean, I think for the most part, most people, unless you bought this pre like 2000, most people are actually probably at a loss. So if we're looking at kind of damage control, I'd be setting these two lines in the sand saying, hey, we don't want to see much price action go below this. And especially this one down here. I mean, I imagine you don't want to see the price. I guess you can look at this in a couple ways. You know, we're right here right now. You can say that's a little bit of support. We have this little trend line that's really superficial, but I'd be looking at it like this. We got support number 1, support number 2. We have this trend line, active trend line coming up. On a monthly sense, we still have some ways to go. We haven't shown any sign of reversal yet. On a weekly sense, it still looks like we're coming down. On a daily sense, where it looks like we're having a little bit of that correction, but it's starting to roll over. So I'd imagine this to continue down here again. I imagine this is a B wave right now. So I could assume that what you just seen was something like this, right? We're gonna be 1, 2, 3. We're gonna form a B, and then who knows, right? We're probably gonna be doing something like so, like I was kind of saying. But now you can see, like, I narrowed it up so much that maybe it's gonna be a little bit more dragged out, right? We could see something like so, like this. I would suspect something more like that. I'd suspect something more like this, and then hopefully, I think this is just a hold. You know, if you're already down 40, 60%, and I know how much you have in this one, the person watching. So when you're looking at just like a few $1,000s, it's kind of tough to sell once it's at such a low from the all-time highs. Like right now already from the all-time highs, we're about 68% down, and it has touched like that 80%. So this is retraced enormously, and well, I'm just not even sure what Suncor Energy is. I'm thinking it's oil probably. So let's just look that up really quick. So Suncor Energy, here we go. Market cap's pretty large, 35 billion. So petroleum, oil sands, upgrading, gas. All right, so this is a gas one. Canadian. Oh man, yeah. I would be lying to say that I'm an expert in gas, Canadian gas, and it's always like a constant battle between the environmentalists and the Native the Native Americans, yeah, sometimes protesting against it, and then clean energy, carbon tax. Canada is like the leader of the moral compass with carbon tax, so I don't see how carbon tax is gonna positively affect that, and yeah, there might be opportunity here too. Like, I don't want to seem all Debbie Downer, but when we're looking at this, momentum is low. Momentum is low. We could have just established the bottom of a huge cup, of a huge, you know, multi-year cup here, and it's just a matter of, I would definitely not want to see this get any lower. I mean, I wouldn't want to see it get below 14, because you don't want to see this stuff just roll over and just die, right? I mean, is oil gonna die? Not for a long time, I mean, but it kind of just, I don't know. Don't take anything I have to say with any amount of educated opinion here, because obviously we still have gas cars and stuff. Gas is at its all-time cheapest, which, you know, buy low, sell high, so I think there might be a little bit more downturn in this stock, and I think there's going to be plenty of opportunity to get back in. If you want to have a play in oil, maybe this one is worth looking at. I mean, you know what? I'm going to add this to one of my lists here as potential, you know, so I'm just going to minimize this here. And just to add some diversity to, it's not going to be actually, obviously don't have it, but let's just be fun here. Let's just put SU. Time frame. Well, we don't have to do that, but I'm just gonna add it there to keep a mental note about this one, because it might, hey, if oil has a big resurgence, this could be doing well. I mean, at the same point, it's pretty darn risky in my opinion right now to get into this, but depends what's going on, right? I mean, you could be thinking about panic selling it, or you could just hold on, like, unless gas is going to be completely obsolete in 5-10 years, which I don't think we have the tech to do it, but it's all going to come down to that. A huge part of Canada export is oil, right? So I think we are the leading oil exporter to America. I had a chart here, right here. This is old too, 2017, but we're exporting a lot to the U.S. So U.S. is importing our oil, and we do the most, right? So when oil's down, Canada as a country is going to be making a lot less, right? When we look at the prices go down that much, just think how much less money Canada as a nation is going to be making. So I guess that kind of worries me in that sense, because, well, if we're going to lose half our GDP and we're going to print all this money, I guess that makes me scared for that. But just in terms of the Suncor, I think I've said enough that we've had a huge correction. It could continue to kind of sink down here, but if oil remains strong in our economy, it will resurge back. Now, if we have some type of shift in technology and Tesla rules the world and we shut down all gas stuff because it's moral obligation, I mean, it's going to be an interesting thing to see what happens, but I'm going to keep that on the list and watch it, okay? We're going to move to the next one here, and hopefully I'm not too long here, and we're going to look at, so we're going to look at weed. This one I just kind of laugh and shake my head, but you never do know. You never know. And I mean, one of the things I was looking at this morning was just the ETF versus ETF, vice versus virtue. I think this is just funny because we have the Inspire 100 and the Sinful Stock Stuff Act versus Bibla, So I looked at both of those and they didn't look like they both looked like they kind of sucked, to be honest. But